Dear students, you are heartily welcome to the National University online class. I am Mohammad Khairuzzaman Russell, will be with you for the next 40 minutes and I will give you the lecture on 16th and 17th century poetry. The name of the title of the lecture is John Milton and his famous epic Paradise Lost. Dear students, welcome to the National University online class. During this pandemic, I feel proud to be the part of this National University online class lecture as a resource person. Please maintain the health rules. Let us start. Paradise Lost, Book 1, written by John Milton. Paradise Lost is an epic poem in blank verse by the 17th century English poet John Milton, who was born 1608 and died 1674. The first version, published in 1667, consists of 10 books with over 10,000 lines of verse. A second edition followed in 1674, arranged into 12 books in the manner of Virgil's Aeneid. Aeneid is another epic poem written by Virgil. With minor revisions throughout, it is considered to be Milton's major work, and it helped solidify his reputation as one of the greatest English poets of his time. The poem concerns the biblical story of the fall of man, the temptation of Adam and Eve by the fallen angel Satan, and their justification of the God of man. Justifies the ways of God to man. So, at first, we can easily learn that Paradise Lost is an epic, and it is written on the biblical story, fall of men, temptation of Adam and Eve by Satan, and their justification, the ways of God to man. At first, we learn the character that you will find in Paradise Lost. The central character we will find in Paradise Lost is Satan. Satan is the ruler of hell, who wages a war against God and heaven. Satan is the ruler of hell, who wages a war against God and heaven. And he is the central character, I have already told you. And in Paradise Lost, we will find that Satan, how he rebels against God and he takes the preparation to defeat God with his all followers. God is the ruler of heaven and the universe, all of you know, and all of you are very familiar that God is the creator, God is the ruler of heaven, God is the ruler of universe, and he sees everything that we know and we don't know. The Son. The Son may be equal to God. While God is considered spirit, the Son takes form to carry out God's plans. Adam. Adam is the first human created by God. Eve. Eve, the first human, is born from Adam's rib. Abdiel. Abdiel is a rebel angel who returns to God to repent. Abdiel is a rebel angel who returns to God to repent. Beelzebub. Beelzebub is second in command of Satan's army. Next to Satan, the power goes to Beelzebub. Belial. Belial is a devil on Satan's council in hell who advocates for doing nothing. Chaos. Chaos is the personified material out of which God created the universe. Chaos is the personified material out of which God created the universe. Death. Death is the son of sin and Satan. Death is the son of sin and Satan. So we find the characters Satan, God, the Son, Adam, Eve, Abdiel, Beelzebub, Belial, Chaos, and Death. Okay, move next. Then we find the character Mammon. Mammon is a devil on Satan's council who advocates for finding riches. Mammon is a devil on Satan's council in hell who advocates for finding riches. Michael. Michael is the highest ranking archangel in heaven. Highest ranking archangel in heaven and commander of God's army. Commander of God's army. Moloch. Moloch is a devil on Satan's council in hell who advocates for a violent war. Moloch is a devil on Satan's council in hell who advocates for a violent war. Malciver. Malciver is the devil architect of Pandemonium, the capital of hell. Malciver is the devil architect of Pandemonium, the capital of hell. Night. Night is chaos companion. Raphael. Raphael is an angel sent by God to warn Adam and Eve about the temptation they will face from Satan. Sin. Satan's daughter. Sin is half serpent and the guardian of the gates of hell. Sin is half serpent and the guardian of the gates of hell. Uriel. Uriel is an angel who is tricked by a disguised Satan. These are the characters that you find in Paradise Lost. So the important characters that we obviously should remember are, the first one is Satan, the second one is Abdiel, Beelzebub, Belial, Mammon, Michael, Moloch, Malciver. These are the characters that obviously we should remember, because whenever we go through the poem, means epic, we will find that how Satan makes his rebel against God with his companions and companies, and they are the companions of Satan, Mammon, and you know Beelzebub, you know Malciver, you know Moloch. They. Okay, dear students, we are moving up. Next part, we should learn the summary so that we can have the idea about the Paradise Lost Book 1. Book 1 begins with a prologue. Book 1 begins with a prologue in which Milton states the purpose of Paradise Lost: to justify the ways of God to humans. To justify the ways of God to humans and to tell the story of their fall. So in the very beginning of the epic, we find that Milton states the purpose of Paradise Lost to justify the ways of God. I'm again says that justify the ways of God to humans and to tell the story of their fall. And to tell the story of their fall. Okay. Following the epic tradition means following the characteristics of epic, epic that was written by Homer. The name of the epic is Iliad, and he followed the conventions and he wrote the secondary epic Paradise Lost. So he maintained the epic tradition. Milton invokes a heavenly muse to help him tell the tale. In all the epics, we find that the author means the epic writer. He invokes to the goddess to get help so that he can complete the epic with the power of God. And God will bestow mercy upon him and he will be able to complete his epic. And so Milton invokes a heavenly muse to help him tell that tale. The muse he calls upon is the same one who inspired Moses to write part of the Bible, he claims. Milton uses the gift of the muse to explain what led to the fall of man, and he introduces the character of Satan, a former great angel in heaven known as Lucifer. So we find that he asks the spirit of heaven to give him the support so that he can write the story of the fall of man. And here he is going to introduce the character Satan, a former great angel. Satan was a former great angel in heaven, known as Lucifer. Satan tried to overthrow God's rule. And banded together with other rebel angels to begin a civil war. In heaven, he protested against God, and he with some other angels, he made a very strong protest against God and banded together with other rebel angels to begin a civil war. They were defeated by God, and in heaven they were defeated by God and cast out of heaven and into hell. So what we find here? That Satan, he banded some rebel angels and made a protest against God, and there he was defeated, and he with his followers were defeated by God, and he was cast into hell. And the fall of Satan we can know. Okay. The story begins with Satan and the other rebel angels. Up to find themselves floating on a lake of fire in hell. Actually, whenever they were cast into hell, the Satan and his followers, means his companions, rebel angels, were floating on the lake of fire in hell, transformed into devils. And formerly they were angels, and whenever they were cast into hell, they transformed into devil, and they are floating in the fire. Upset, Satan gathers the fallen angels together, and he again gathered the fallen angels, means all the devils. They work to build a capital in hell for themselves. Pandemonium, which is the capital of Satan. And they work to build a pandemonium and form a council to debate waging more warfare against God. And they took their oath that they will fight against God togetherly with collecting their powers. Satan and the other angels don't seem to recognize that it is only through God's permission that they were able to loosen the chains that bound them upon their arrival in hell. What means there? Satan and the other angels don't seem to recognize that it is only through God's permission that they were able to loosen the chains that bound them upon their arrival in heaven. God allowed it because He is all-knowing and all-seeing and intends to change their evil intentions into goodness. Okay. So this is the theme actually, that all the devils, means the rebel angels who were transformed from angels to devils and were floating in the fire, they were chained and they did not have the chance to uh, get repentance to back again to heaven. And Satan met togetherly all of the devils and they worked to build Pandemonium, the capital of the hell, where Satan is the king, and some other devils, they had some powers, and togetherly they made the decision to fight against God, and this was their intentions and decisions, and they made councils in Pandemonium, and this is about the theme of the book Paradise Lost, book 1. Now, this is an epic. So at first you should know what is actually an epic. Let us read the definition. An epic is a long narrative poem. An epic is a long narrative poem presenting characters of high position in a series of adventures which form an organic whole through their relation to a central figure of heroic proportions and through their development of episodes important to the history of a nation or a race. So what do we find there? An epic is a long narrative poem presenting some characters. They are obviously should be very high ranking characters, and the theme of the epic should be a very grand one, especially it can be historical, it can be very related to any nations, means high purpose theme, high purpose intention should be the should high purpose intention should be the main part of the epic. In Iliad, we find that there was a great war of 12 years between Troy and Greece. And in Mahabharata, we find that there was a great war, and it was between the Arjun and Duryodhana. And in Ramayana, we find that there is a war between Ram and Ravan. And all the characters that we find in the epic, the war that is mentioned there, there is a purpose of good and evil, and it is a very high in purpose. So we find here that their relation to a central figure of heroic proportions, all the characters, other characters are related to the hero, and through their development of episodes important to the history of a nation or a race. History of a nation, history of a nation or a race. Obviously, the story that is taken for epic is belonging to history or belonging to nation or belonging to a race. So we find that Paradise Lost is an epic because the theme of the epic is Satan, Satan and God, heaven and hell. And this is a very uh, important and very familiar theme that all the people of the world know it. And they believe that Adam and Eve were tempted by Satan, and for this reason, they had to separate from heaven, and they had to take the fall from heaven to the earth. Okay, dear students, let us discuss about the characteristics of an epic. Epics have 7 main characteristics. Main characteristics are 7. The hero is outstanding. Means hero obviously is a very rich one, high one. They might be important and historically or legendary significant. Historically or legendary significant. The hero, not like the other heroes of the novel, of the any story. Rather, they have historical touch. They have the high birth, noble birth, and they can be very familiar in history or they can be legend. Number 2, the setting is large, means the setting of the epic should be very grand in scale, where at first the reader can get the identity about a great good thing is going to happen in the development of the epic. It covers nations or the known world. Number 3, the action is made of deeds of great valor or requiring superhuman courage. The action is made of deeds of great valor. Means the courage of the hero should be presented. The courage of the hero should be presented with his heroic activities. And the hero should have superhuman power. Number 4, supernatural forces. We find that the supernatural forces have involvements like as God, angels, demon, etc. It is written in a very special style. Special style means the meter that are used there are not like any prose. It is in verse. The poet tries to remain objective. Here the poet should not express his personal intentions or any comments. Rather, it should be objective. Number 7, epic poems are believed to be supernatural and real by the hero and the villain. Epic poems are believed to be supernatural and real. Both they are believed in supernatural and obviously real by the hero and the villain. The other characteristics of an epic, it starts with the theme or subject of the story. Means it starts with the theme or subject of the story. In epics, inspired from Western civilization, the writer invokes a muse. Means Western civilization, the invoke means the epic writer invokes Muse, the daughter of Zeus, one of the 9 daughters of Zeus. The poet prays to the muses to provide divine inspiration to tell the great story. The poet prays to muse to give them the power of completing the epic. Number 3, narrative opens in medias res or the middle of things. Means it starts with the middle, not the very first or the beginning. Usually with the hero at his lowest point. Usually flashbacks show earlier portions of the story. It starts and the other tales that are related to it was told just after the development of the epic. But it starts with the middle. Catalogs and genealogies are given. This long list of objects, places, and people place the finite action of the epic with a broader universal context. Often the poet is also paying homage to the ancestors of Odeon members. These are the catalog and genealogies are given to the readers so that they can easily know the objects, places, people, actions, and each and everything. And the poet pay homage to ancestors of audience member. Main characters give extended formal speeches. Main characters give extended formal speech. Use of the epic simile. We find that epic simile is very important in epic. In Iliad, we find that Homer uses some epic. They are called uh, Homeric similes. And we find just like such similes that are used in The Paradise Lost by John Milton. It presents a heroic ideals such as courage, honor, sacrifice, patriotism, and kindness. Actually, the virtues that are presented in an epic is courage, honor, sacrifice, patriotism, and kindness. These are the characteristics of an epic. And if these characteristics are found in a poem, then it can be called an epic, otherwise not. Basically, there are two kinds of epic. The first one is primary, also known as oral or primitive folk epic. And the second one is secondary epic, and it is also known as literary epic. So what is the difference between primary epic and secondary epic actually? Primary epic is an oral or primitive oral epic. Means that we find the primary epic that we find, actually it was not written, rather it we receive from one generation after another generation with oral conventions. Means the generation tells the story of the epic to the next generation, and the next generation then tells the epic to the after generation. And this way, one after another, the primary epic is just come to us, and we know as the Iliad written by Homer. Actually, he made this story, and some says that actually these epics were written by some poets. Means they didn't write, rather they told the story and folk received it. And for this reason, obviously, it is oral, not it is written. And so these oral epic are called primary epic. And the secondary epic, also known as literary, means Paradise Lost. This is a written epic that is written by John Milton. It is not oral. Rather, it is manuscript and it is written, and it has excellent literary form. This Paradise Lost is the example of secondary epic. The first belongs to the oral tradition and is thus composed oral and recited. The secondary epic is a literary work of art. It is written, they refined the use of meter, each and everything, and it is a part of the literature. Though primary epic also is the part of literature, and this primary epic were later written by some other poets who write it down. But secondary epic is the very first hand is written. Okay, yes, students, let us compare let us compare a comparative study between primary and secondary epic. Greek epics involved heroes, words, and heroic acts. They usually begin with the writer invoking a muse as his guide. Greek epics involve heroes, words, and heroic acts. They usually begin with the writer invoking a muse as his guide. By invoking a muse that inspired muses, Milton places Paradise Lost in the same epic category as religious context and signals that he is writing an epic in the tradition of the ancient Greeks. So we find that in Greek epic involved heroes, words, and heroic acts. We also find in Milton's Paradise Lost the same category, Satan, his followers, and there is a war between God and Satan and heroic acts. But they began the poem invoking a muse, and Milton also invokes spirit, muse, and that is inspired by muses. Milton echoes and mimics earlier Greek epics in a few ways. His lengthy introduction and naming of all of the fallen angels in hell resembles an epic catalog. Means the character that is going to describe with a long catalog. And this is the tradition of primary epic. A long list of soldiers found in the epics like the Iliad. In Iliad, we find a long list of soldiers, contingents, how many ships, etc. Also, we find the name of characters in a long list in Paradise Lost. The Odyssey, also in Iliad and Odyssey, we find the same catalog. Further, Milton portrays Satan as a military leader who assembles and commands his troop of fallen angels. All the Satan united all the other devil angels, means devils, to make a troop and fight against God, and he was the commander. This is similar to the ancient Greek epics that glorified war heroes and sought to paint Satan as a kind of idealized protagonist. In this way, John Milton, like the Iliad, where we find that Agamemnon, Achilles, and Diomedes, a lot of generals of Greeks, they took the preparation and they are going to stand in a queue to fight against the Trojans. And we find in Paradise Lost that Satan, he gave command to the other angels to take a preparation to stand to fight against God. Okay, now we find the definition of primary epic. Primary epic poetry, which stems from heroic deeds and which is composed in the first instance in order that such deeds may not be forgotten. It is practical in purporting to record historical events and deals with the real world, however much glamour may be added in the process. Secondary epic poetry, which may deal with heroic legend or with more abstract themes than the type available to primary epic, and which is composed not as an historical record of the past, but as the poet's artistic interpretations or recreation of legend of theme. The combination of the poet's seeing eye and his personal style together creates something which is not based on reality, but has a life of its own to be transmitted to the fiction. Okay, dear students, we find that the primary epic was written on any historical theme, but the secondary epic is written on the theme created by the poet. Primary epic has the historical value, or primary epic shows the legendary characters and superhuman characters which are believed by the people, and secondary epic is written on the theme that is not historical but a creation of the poet, and the Paradise Lost is written on religion about God and Satan. So this is not history, but this is a belief. This is a part of religion. So it is not happened in the world and it is not historical, rather it is religious. So we find the difference between primary epic and secondary epic. We learn the epic characteristics of an epic, and we find that why Paradise Lost is called the secondary epic. And we also learned about the primary epic, the Iliad, in it by Virgil, Odyssey, Mahabharata, Ramayana, etc. However, dear students, obviously will not miss the second class, in which second class means the lecture number 10. We will discuss about Paradise Lost in detail, and we'll learn how many questions are important for the examination in this year, and we hope we will enjoy the lecture and you will not miss the next class. Thank you all to be with us for last 40 minutes. I'm Mohammad Khalid Jaman, an assistant professor of English at Government Devendra College, was with you for the last 40 minutes. We should remain safe and sound. Bye.